Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back again today with another fantasy football video. Today's video is Week 5 trade targets. These are players at every single position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, that I think you may want to get on your team this week. Now, before I start the video, I'd like to give you guys a word from my sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. Tired of having to pick the perfect player at every single position in order to win at Salary Cap DFS? Are you tired of having your salary cap lineup out of the running to win money in the first 5 minutes? Does playing Salary Cap DFS feel like a job and not even a game? Want a fantasy game where pros with 150 lineups and computer-generated games can't dominate? OverlayDFS.com has a new revolutionary start-sit game for fantasy sports. They are the home of the single-entry GPP. How do you play? It is a simple start-sit format. Make 12 start-sit decisions from the 30-plus matchup presented, like you can see on my screen right now. A winner, win, loss, or tie will be awarded to your overall record for each decision. Records of the top 10% of users win 9 times your buy-in. 12-0 records win GTD progressive bonus. All matchups are player versus player. Who will have the most fantasy points? Usually, an 8-4 record is good enough to get that cash. Sometimes 7-5, other times 9-3, depending on the week. Make 12 picks on the matchup options listed. For example, in Week 5, it could be Cooper Kupp versus Todd Gurley, Adam Thielen versus Stephon Diggs, Carson Wentz versus Tom Brady, and many, many more. The object is to stay consistent and finish in the top 10% of the field to win 9 times your buy-in until the stars align and you go that beautiful 12-0. Right now, if you go the perfect 12-0 in the $109 game, you'd win the progressive bonus of over 26 big ones, $26,000. They have buy-ins at all levels. If no one hits that perfect 12-0, the progressive bonus keeps growing and will roll over until it gets hit. It's like the super contest, but for DFS. Do not get shut out. Visit www.overlaydfs.com today. And we are back. Now, they also have a app, Overlay Fantasy Sports, on the Apple Store. If you want to figure out how to get it on the Google Play Store, check down below in the description. It's down there, so let's get right into it. So the first guy to talk about here is DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver of the Houston Texans. Now, he's only wide receiver 22 on the year. A lot of people drafted him. Some people in your league drafted him in the first round. They drafted him to be the #1 wide receiver in fantasy football. Right now, he's far from that. He's been a huge disappointment from where he was drafted. Some people have called him a bust. In my opinion, he's not a bust. He is going to get better as the year goes on. He's only had one good game this season, and that was the first week of the year against New Orleans. 8 receptions on 13 targets for 111 yards and 2 tutties for 31.1 PPR points. That was followed by 3 poor performances the past 3 weeks. Against Jacksonville, he was being guarded by Jalen Ramsey, which obviously Jalen Ramsey just has DeAndre Hopkins' number. He really never performs against Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey held him to 5 receptions on 8 targets for 40 yards, which is 9 PPR points. Against the Chargers, Week 3, 6 receptions on 7 targets for 68 yards, 12.7 PPR points. And Week 4 last week against Carolina, 5 receptions on 8 targets for 41 yards, as well as 1 pick. He threw a pick. I'm not sure why they're running that play. Lowered his fantasy points even more, 7.1 PPR points. Do I think he's going to have a bounce back? Yes. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's 99 in Madden. Obviously, that doesn't tell you much about how he's going to perform this year, but what it does tell you is that he has the talent. Deshaun Watson is going to bounce back. The Houston Texans are going to bounce back, and DeAndre Hopkins is definitely a guy that you can buy on the cheap, on the low, and you want to get this week before it is indeed too late. Next wideout to talk about here is Davante Adams, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is a guy who, in my opinion, he's only a target if you are a winning team. Say you're 4-0, 3-1. Go ahead, trade for Davante Adams, because Week 5, likely out. In my opinion, pretty much out completely. But Week 6, Week 7 seems like a good timetable for him to return. So if you can trade away someone and tank waiting for him to come back, or not tank technically because you're not fucking going to lose, but you're just going to not have one of your best player on your team, probably Davante Adams on your team for a couple of games, but that's fine because you're already 4-0. You're already 3-1. You can take that hit. but he should be back soon. Like I said, he had his true comeback game week 4. I told you guys to trade for him for the past couple of weeks. Week 1, week 2, week 3 wasn't performing all that well, but week 4, by God, did he look great against the Philadelphia Eagles. 10 receptions on 15 targets for 180 yards, 28 PPR points, absolutely eviscerated the Philadelphia Eagles defense, which is what we should have been seeing all year. I think we are going to be seeing this the rest of the year once Davante comes back, so make sure to snag him. Now we're on to the running backs. David Montgomery, running back, Chicago Bears. He's been on the trade targets for the past 4 weeks, and he's back again for week 5. Matt Nagy, that stupid motherfucker who wears the fucking visor and looks all on the sideline, has begun to feed the beast, David Montgomery. His volume is key in fantasy. Volume is king, as someone described in fantasy football. The way to win is just get that guy with the most volume. And it seems like David Montgomery's volume has been increasing. Now, when I say total touches, that means times he fucking touches the ball by running or total times he touches the ball by catching the ball. Week 1, 7 total touches. Week 2, 19 total touches. Week 3, 16 total touches. Week 24 or week 4, 24 total targets. So we are seeing an uptick in the targets in the red zone work. He's slowly getting Tariq Cohen out of the running back position or out of like just running plays where they're going to throw it when Tariq Cohen's on the field. Now they have no more Kissintich Trubisky for this week, likely for the next couple of weeks. Maybe that's a bonus for David Montgomery because he doesn't have to deal with a dumbass throwing him the ball. Averages 10 PPR points per game, and he has only scored 1 touchdown, and the touchdown upside could go up. It seems like when they get in the 1 to 3 yard line, they're just going to hammer it with David Montgomery 9 million times until he knocks and gets in that goddamn end zone. So I like David Montgomery as definitely a sneaky trade target. Next guy to talk about here is LeVeon Bell, running back, New York Jets. Now you may have to pay the Kings a ransom to get LeVeon Bell, but in my opinion, he is going to be worth it. He looked great with Sammy Darnold, Sammy Mono, week 1 against Buffalo. 17 rushes for 60 yards and 6 receptions on 9 targets. Nice for 32 yards and 1 touchdown, 23.2 PPR points. And they just looked okay with Mr. Luke Falk at the quarterback. Week 2 against Cleveland, 21 rushes for 68 yards and 10 receptions on 10 targets for 61 yards, 20.9 PPR points on that Monday night game. Week 3 against New England, obviously it's the New England defense. They're going to lock down pretty much anyone. Against New England, like I said, 18 rushes, 35 yards, and 4 receptions on 4 targets for 28 yards, 10.3 PPR points. Now, Sam Darnold, Sammy Mono, is coming back soon. Should be good to go in the next. I don't think he's going to play this week. I mean, they haven't ruled him out, but I think likely week 6, week 7, probably week 6 will be his return. And I think that Le'Veon Bell, he's worth even more now because you guys have to keep in your head that he already had his bye. You're fine. You pretty much get a player that doesn't have a bye anymore for the rest of the year. So that's a big advantage. Typically, if you're trading for, say, someone else like David Montgomery hasn't had his bye yet, you need to keep that in mind when you're trading players. Next guy to talk about is Saquon Barkley, running back of the New York Football Giants. Now, he is definitely risky if he doesn't return soon. In my opinion, he's running this week. Right now, week 5, there's a potential for a week 6 come back. I don't think he's playing this week. I guarantee probably going to be out, but he does have that potential for the week 6 comeback. Solid first 2 weeks before he got hurt. Week 3 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 1 against Dallas, 11 rushes for 120 yards with 4 receptions on 6 targets for 19 yards and a fumble, 17.9 PPR points. Week 2 against Buffalo, arguably a pretty good run defense. 18 rushes for 107 yards and 1 tutty with 3 receptions on 7 targets for 27 yards, 22.5 PPR points. Now, he did play pretty good against Tampa before he got hurt, but I figured those stats, they just don't look that good because at the end of the day, he didn't play half of the game. Now, you need to keep in mind that now you're getting Saquon Barkley on a better Giants team. Week 1, week 2, that's with shit tier Eli Manning. The future potential week 6 comeback is with Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, a better quarterback than Eli Manning, at least this year. Obviously, Eli in the past is better than Daniel Jones, but what I'm saying is that I think that going forward, Daniel Jones is going to give Saquon Barkley a better opportunity to score because they're going to be a better overall team. Next guy to talk about here is tight end George Kittle, tight end of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, he's tight end 13 on the year. You drafted him in the top 3 rounds. He has been very, very, very disappointing. There's so many guys he could have, like Will Dissly, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, guys you could have picked up that are performing better than George Kittle. But I think that is going to turn around. He's not entered the end zone. He's not hopped his way into that end zone yet without it being called back. Now, I know week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we saw 9,000 flags be thrown onto the field every time George Kittle touched that end zone. But performances thus far have been just okay. Week 1 against Tampa, 8 receptions on 10 targets for 13.4 PPR points. Week 2 against the Bengals, 3 receptions on 3 targets, 8.4 PPR points. Week 3 against the Steelers, 6 receptions on 8 targets, 11.7 PPR points. And week 4, he had his bye. So just like LeVeon, you have that bonus of getting a guy that is not going to be on buy, and George Kittle is definitely a guy you can certainly buy for cheap. A lot of people are off of George Kittle. A lot of people are cursing his name. A lot of people are hating that they drafted him, but he will eventually bounce back. Knock one time if you're with me. Now, something you have to understand about George Kittle is they are using him to pass block more than they did last year. Last year, he was just going wild, and that's why I think his performances haven't been as good, but I think there's definitely time for him to come back and be great, just like we saw last year. Now, onto our final trade target. So if you guys have enjoyed this video thus far, make sure to click that subscribe button down below and click that like button. Now, Deshaun Watson, quarterback of the Houston Texans, has not, keyword not, been super consistent this year. He should be able to turn it around and be more consistent. Be that consistent quarterback we saw last year. Games so far this season. Week 1 against New Orleans, 20 for 30, or 20 completions on 30 passes for 268 yards and 3 tutties with a pick, 4 rushes for 40 yards and a touchdown. So 4 total touchdowns, 1 pick, 30.72 points. And then week 2, he shit the bed against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 16 completions on 29 passes for 159 yards with no touchdowns, 4 rushes, and 1 rushing touchdown for 12.9 fantasy football points. Week 3 against the LA Chargers, 25 for 34, or 25 out of 34 for 351 yards, 3 tutties, 7 rushes for 18 yards, 25.8 PPR point, or not PPR points. This is for a 4-point passing touchdown. Week 4, Carolina, 21 of 33 for 160 rushing yards with 0 passing touchdowns, but he did have that rushing touchdown, 3 rushes for 12 yards and a rushing touchdown, 11.6 fantasy points. So if you guys have noticed, there is a trend. 3 out of the 4 games, he has rushed a touchdown. So that rushing upside is definitely there for Mr. Deshaun Watson. Now, like you can see, he hasn't been consistent, like I said. Went from 30 points to 12 points to 25, and then all the way back down to 11. So it seems like every other game he's going to be good. So week 5, probably going to be pretty fucking good. But with that being said, I think he is going to get more consistent, just like DeAndre Hopkins. We saw DeAndre Hopkins at the beginning of the video. Hasn't been very consistent, but I do think he is going to get more consistent. He's getting the ball thrown to him. He's getting the ball thrown to him down the field. So DeAndre Hopkins should be good to go. Deshaun Watson should also be good to go. Potentially, you may even be able to snag both of them from the same owner who has Deshaun Watson. They have DeAndre Hopkins, and they are disappointed. But don't be disappointed. Get those guys. Get them all on the cheap. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If at any point you enjoyed, if at any point you chuckled, if at any point you just were like, God damn, this is amazing, click that subscribe button. Have a great rest of your day. There's going to be so many more videos today. Make sure to check those out. You don't want to miss out. Live stream tonight before the Thursday night football games. I love you all. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.